Let's go to Russ Vought right now, the former White House director of the Office of Management and Budget. Russ, always great having you. I wonder what your thoughts are, just as a number cruncher, on if we drop all the tariffs with China, and the administration's argument will be something to the effect it will ease the inflationary bite for Americans. The flip side of that, of course, is it does help the Chinese, and therein lies the conundrum. What do you make of it?
And over the long term, I think it would be very damaging to do that. I think one of the things that the COVID crisis has shown us is how reliant we are on our adversary, and that to the extent to which we have these unfair trade practices in place, and Section 301, which they are evaluating, those tariffs, is in response to those unfair trade practices. To the extent that we are fundamentally controlled by the whims of a Chinese dictator, that is a huge problem, not just for the nation, but the economy itself. And so this is something that I think would, even if there was some small, minimal impact in the short term, it would be over the long term very, very detrimental to consumers themselves, and then, of course, to Americans who need to be kept safe and need a federal government that takes strong, wise action against their adversary. It would be very damaging to get rid of these tariffs right now when we need those for geopolitical leverage.
What do you make of the fact that China, though, and getting them ticked off is something that a lot of our European partners, even with this $600 billion commitment, are leery of going too far, as they did with Russia, because it will be double jeopardy for them, and that it could boomerang on them?
Well, I think we need to bring our European allies to the table and encourage them. And one of the areas that I do think American leadership is required is in the area of our military commitments, in the area of expanding what we need for a big United States Navy. And we are not making trade-offs that are necessary to prepare for China. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we're so focused on what's happening in Ukraine. Much of the G7's time was spent coming up with some weird oil price caps that I don't think will work, and that just gets to the point that instead of having the time and energy of our leaders being focused on what's necessary to prepare for a fight that with China that I hope never has to happen because of our strength and our deterrence, we are wasting our time, and we're pursuing minimalist policies or no policies at all. For instance, energy exploration, we're making it harder for them to come along with us down the road.
What should our response then to China be? If you think about it, China is now the #1 customer for all that Russian oil. And there are no punishments meted out for China buying that oil. And I doubt many are coming. Now, there might be something in this communique, the $600 billion plan to counter China. I'm just not aware of it. But that China isn't hurting. What do you make of that?
No, they're not. And Neil, I think the $600 billion communique will have very few details. Right. It's largely illusory in terms of the types of things that the Biden administration doesn't have this money to be able to communicate. Given where we are fiscally, the Congress is going to be loath to want to give this money, and rightfully so. But I think we've got to do a lot in terms of our pulling away, decoupling over time, so that fewer and fewer of our companies are going and investing in China. We can't have this level of integration with a geopolitical adversary. It's not wise, and it's something that puts our consumers, our countrymen, in a disadvantage, and we have learned that over the last 2 years.
Got it. Russ, great catching up with you. Russ Vought, the former White House OMB director.